Trigger Toven, what is happening?
What's going on? Glad to be here. I know we chatted for, I don't know, gone back and forth for a minute. So glad we found the time.
I'm beyond stoked that we have this. I have a list of things because I've geeked on you because I had a while to do that, and
Yeah.
yeah, man, it's just the things that you were a part of, that you supervised, but you also coordinated. It just the
Mm-hmm.
list does not stop for a second. Like I can scroll and scroll and scroll, and it's like crazy, wild.
I am in, I believe this year I will surpass 100 credits, which is kind of insane. Yeah.
It looks like I think I saw like 94 or whatever, but like it's not only 94, man. It's like some of my favorite shit is there. Like I mean,
That's awesome. Thank you, man.
oh my god. Sorry. That would be the last time that I. Well,
The
oh
hat.
my god.
Seriously, yeah.
I need a hat like that. But
Yeah, this is
but
the crew hat. They're pretty legit. Yeah.
low key is the reason I subscribe to Disney, and it's I watch some episodes again and again and again and again because everything there connects so freaking harmoniously.
Some insane writing. Yeah, it's so crazy.
Holy smokes! I want to get into Loki in specific. Like I don't think we're gonna geek into it too much, but I feel like Loki is one of my it's one, if not the all time favorite shows that came out. So maybe we'll get into it a little bit, but I feel like I want to take it back because you started your parents were immigrants, right, from Norway.
Yeah, my dad was.
My
Yeah, my mom was born here, or in Washington State. But yeah, but her parents are, her grandparents are Norwegian.
so let's start from that. Like, so there's a heritage of kind of music in your background, and let's unpack it from the beginning and take it to the present moment. So start wherever you'd like and bring us to this moment.
Yeah, no, totally. Super musical family. My dad came over as a hardanger fiddle player with like a Norwegian folk group. So like he was like the fiddler with the dancers, and they like literally toured the U.S., did like colleges and stuff, which is pretty nuts. Um, and my mom was in Choir of the West and a bunch of, which is like a big choir up in Washington State, and yeah, so all music growing up. They started a children's Norwegian youth choir that I was in since age 4. So like, singing and performing my whole life, and playing violin when I was young, piano, then trumpet, everything. Yeah, so it was all music all the way through. But neither of my parents were professional beyond, like, my dad when he was young, you can call that professional when he's touring, but they weren't like lifetime musicians professionally, but definitely always an important part of my childhood for sure. So yeah, on that end, came down to California to go to school, and got into like film studies and different things. It's called multimedia, and then I always joke that the films were terrible, but the music was good. So kind of fell into supervision eventually. I don't know how much detail you want to get into, but yeah, I mean,
Get into it.
yeah, I mean, let's see here. I was making movies, producing records, making music, just kind of everything in college. And then out of college, obviously, you have to get sort of a job. So I started interning for the Smeezingtons, well, which weren't the Smeezingtons at the time, but Ari Levine, and he eventually became this, with the Smeezingtons, Bruno and Philip. And when I was working with Ari, it was basically just like hip hop mixtapes. He had a studio in Hollywood off of Highland, and Highland and Sunset, and it was like people were showing up just like with a bag of weed and to do their like mixtape. It's just like I had to clean the gun grease off of the off the couch, like that
Whoa.
kind of stuff. So it was a fun introduction to that world. But yeah, and then eventually I started at a company called Lucier that was uh, TV marketing, and I was a production assistant there, and then I just kind of fell into it's like I could help the editors find music for the spots, and they were doing like Desperate Housewives, Grey's Anatomy. Well, that was a little bit later after I started working more in the music side, but Lost and a lot of ABC shows back then. So I just kind of fell into finding the music for the spots for the editors and then getting hold of now I was like a buyer. So I just used that to go meet as many record labels and go do the thing. Because I don't know, to be a music supervisor, you kind of have to know everyone in music first. And then all these other people have to hire you to go, use that expertise and those connections. So there's a lot of building and networking, to build up to that point. So that was how I started.
Mm. So you kind of reverse engineered in a way, like how things work. So you because musicians usually don't come from the place of understanding it from the inside out, and it feels like you've done something quite differently and quite yeah, it feels to somebody who's a composer like me, like myself, who's a musician. This doesn't feel like the way to do things, right? Like if you want to be a musician, you got to go, you got to kiss babies, you got to go to conferences, you got to do all these things. And I feel like you took the backseat pretty early, which is such a huge thing, like in my opinion, because what I tend to see and I tend to have like sin in myself is the ego part, which is like I have to be the one who is celebrated
out front. Right.
Yes. But then you did something. You came from the back and like from the back of the back, cleaning grease from couches. And
I mean, we were making beats as well. I was we were like making stuff. So I wasn't just literally, I was cleaning out microwaves. I remember that specifically, but yeah, I mean, I was also, Ari and I would make beats every day and then I would fly them and make them into like loops and stuff to send to labels and stuff like that. But yeah, but sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
No. But that's the thing. I feel like the whole thing, the taking a backseat thing, is a very important stage. Because that's where people get into sync. That's where people get into what I do. It's like understanding that you serve a purpose in this whole machine.
Right.
And how do you feel like you fit? How did you mold yourself as time went by?
It's interesting because I used to always talk about this. So like I also write and produce, and I've tried to find a way to kind of combine those two sides to where currently I'm doing more films where I can do both. Um, but it's a backwards way to get there, right? Like you said. So I always used to say, I don't know if it wasn't necessarily the most courageous way to do it, but I think I was like, well, if I know everybody in the industry, then I can just go make my music. You know what I mean? Versus like just making the music and then slowly getting people to know you. I was like, oh, I'll meet everybody first and I'll go that route. And then I'll kind of like get in, I'll be making the music and doing things, but not having it be front and center. So that, I mean, it kind of worked out, I guess, which is crazy, but it's definitely a weird way to do things. And obviously it takes a long time. There's no like 3-year blowing up by doing, what you're doing. So, but it's fun because I enjoy I see that I'm directly in with the director and the producers and sometimes the actors on set and different things. And it's a lot of fun to use, kind of that musical brain in this way for me as well. So it's, yeah, it's, I mean, it is behind the scenes, but at the same time, it's, I don't know, it can be important sometimes, you know what I mean? Like trying to find the right I don't know, you know what I mean? Like I'm right in between everything, and I'm in between the spotlight, I suppose. So it's kind of fun.
It reminds me of the experiment they were doing with kids. You probably know about it. They did it with kids. I don't know when it was. It's an old one. They did an experiment with what?
The marshmallow one.
Yes, sir. Where people had where kids had to wait for the marshmallow, and if they waited, they would get two. So it kind of feels like you were the kid that waited for the two. So like to anyone, if there's one or two people who don't know about it, it's basically an experiment where they took kids, put them in a room, told them put a marshmallow in front of them, told them not to eat it, and if they don't eat it, they will get more marshmallows. Like it would get two or four, and the ones who waited for the two or four actually proved later in life they followed their progress that they were basically more successful. I'm just going to outline the experiment. So it feels like what you were doing, and it feels like something that definitely a lot of people, me included, lack in. But it feels like they told you, hey, wait for 1 year for this marshmallow, and you'll maybe get two marshmallows because you don't freaking know. There's so many. Now, I mean, there's more supervisors and there's more, I guess, desirability in being a supervisor, and musicians are starting to make the move that you make, and starting to go that route in order to maybe in the future put their music out there. um what do you feel like is your approach of taking opportunities?
I was just gonna say on that same point is like, yeah, I didn't really know what a supervisor was starting. You know, it wasn't known as well it is now for sure. So it's been a minute, but sorry, my process on taking opportunities, or what was
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Um,
How do you approach them?
yeah, I mean, I kind of love doing everything, so I'm always just trying to hustle constantly. Um, it's interesting on that note with the marshmallow. Like, I think that it looks that way in hindsight because you know I mean, it worked out. Things are going well, but also I don't think you never know how long that you know how long you're waiting for that marshmallow. So you
Yep.
never know how long it's going to take. But definitely feels like some delayed gratification in that way for sure. Um, how do I approach opportunities? I mean, you mean like when they come to me, or how do I go about getting them?
Both. I mean, like you can approach it from wherever you want. I feel like that's here's the thing. I feel like most of the people who are listening are more on the composer side. So they are looking for opportunities, but they also need to see the opportunities in order to actually reach them at times, because it's not always what it seems, right? Like you do other things aside from music supervision. When somebody hears Trygge Toven, they know that you are a music supervisor, but you know there is so much scope to you. There's so much width to you. There's so much in there. There's dope music there. There's a lot of things. So how did you go about expanding? Like when you see a chance to expand, as opposed to something that's pulling you back, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of how my brain works. I always want to do all so many different things at all times. And my wife was telling me that, you know, she's been telling me for 15 years just to do everything, which is why I literally just posted that last night on LinkedIn. Just to randomly like just do it all. Just because I feel like you can sit, a lot of people are just focused on one thing, and I've never been able to really just do that. So I kind of, I'm pretty good at going after I mean, I stayed stuck with the supervision for this long and keep on going and those things. But during that whole time, I'm also looking for, you know, I've done like pop songwriting and released my own music and, you know, produced records, other people, and done like, you know, just different things. They're all kind of connected. But it all feels like it's just all the different versions of me that I just having it be one specific thing has never been quite what what I wanted to pursue. So I think the way that I go about, like, I spent a lot of time early on trying to figure out how to get work, obviously, because it's interesting. Most people in my world end up they do just one medium, and then that's kind of where they're at. So I noticed early on when I was doing kind of this was like my second part of it. I was doing like promos and trailers when a lot of people do just that. And I kind of wanted to work on, movies and TV shows. So I was trying to figure out a way to connect from that to the next thing. There's not too many people that kind of have worked in every way, in every sort of different medium. I've done almost everything except for maybe video games at this point. And a lot of it was just trying to figure out how to convert those relationships. And you figured out that the producers that make those TV movies or indie films or whatever I was working on at the time, they kind of are there. Everybody gets typecast, right? Like in every way. So I just had to figure out ways to kind of treat it like a sales, way of like, building relationships and getting to as many people as I could. But then you read a bunch of sales books, you realize that Hollywood doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? It's all just like doing cold calls and things of that sort. I've gotten a few things through that, but it's all about how you're perceived in each situation. So I think that's with opportunities. I'm always trying to figure out ways to get to everybody on their own level or on the same level, and how I can, kind of provide value in that way to those people. Not just say I want to go work on this, but it's like, what do they need, and how can I help them with that to achieve their goal for that project? So that's kind of how I approach opportunities. If I get a new opportunity, then it's just trying to be like it's all about the creative. Like, how can I make the creative the best it possibly could be in every situation? And think about it like a filmmaker would, like a composer would, like, and bridging those gaps all the way through. But also just, taking it to the next level, with like the emotional response of the audience, and like, speaking story and how you can really connect those dots. Sorry, I'm absolutely gibberish over here, but yeah, you understand.
Yeah, I mean, I had something that come into my mind as you were speaking. It's kind of like, yeah, I mean, you're enabling yourself the opportunity to work on other stuff. I feel like for composers, it's the equivalent would be working on only one style of music, and then yeah, maybe I'm known for epic hip hop or whatnot, but then I have an ad company that hits me up for rock. So I feel like that's an important thing, to have these connections that would actually give you a shot. And that to me is the key of what I hear from you. It's you're perceived by these people, but people who are great usually see something in you that you don't, which is, I feel like it leads me into mentorship, uh, which I'd like to ask you about. Were you a part of certain, I mean, I guess, coordinated mentorships or not coordinated? Did you have people who led you by the hand to get to the places that you were?
I mean, not as directly as you would think until maybe later, but early on, because I was in promos, I was trying to get into like any sort of long form project. So then I was talking to, I mean, you can call anybody a mentor that helped me out throughout. Like, I had meetings with like PJ Bloom. I was bringing up because he was one of the first supervisors I even knew what a supervisor was, because I was watching Nip Tuck and I was like, the music's amazing. What is this? Oh, that's a job. Okay. And I was able to just by chance meet him at Honeypot, his radio show that they were doing, him and Hot Tub Johnny, and had a meeting with him. He sent me his breakdown. I didn't know what a breakdown was. Just basically, breaking down what songs are in the episodes and all of that, and explaining it to me. So I got a lot of my mentorship through hustling meetings, basically, instead of working under somebody. And then, but also, it was like just people taking a shot on me. Like I had a good meeting with Marianne Good, who was the head of music at Lifetime at the time. And she's like, well, I got this producer that needs help, and I don't even remember there was, it's not like there was much money involved. It was just like, help him out on this one. And then I did like 3 movies with that same producer. And it was just by people taking a chance. So you can call that mentorship in any way. But also it was interesting coming from marketing first, I think helped a lot, because in marketing, you have to understand that you're finding one song that shows the whole show. So you kind of understand this concept of like telling the whole story through one lens, and then you'll do like a different sell to a different audience and figuring out that way. So it also, you're doing tons and tons of spots all the time. So creatively, I had to like knock out like 100 spots in a week sometimes. Probably not that many, but maybe like 30, and then I really learned the creative quickly and knowing what to look for and flying through the options, whereas if I just started in film with the much longer timelines, I feel like I wouldn't have built that muscle. So I think I was really lucky to get through the different avenues that I did, because now I can use that marketing angle when I'm working on a big film. And I'm like, okay, well, we need a big song for this end title. And I understand the concept of what the marketing team is looking for. Instead of just thinking of what the director needs in this situation, I can kind of wear all those hats and knowing the studio needs this, the director needs this, the producer needs this, the marketing team needs it, and like how can the music answer all those scenarios.
Yeah, what do you think the equivalent of that would be for a musician?
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I mean, to what I was talking about before is like, how do you, if you're giving something to somebody like your music, how is it, helping them, adding value to what they need versus just here's my music, here's my cool music, check it out. I guess in a different way to, I mean, I talk about in my course a little bit with sync music specifically, because it's like you don't want to start writing the music thinking about any of that stuff, right? You want to find which is when I'm doing it for a movie, I'm creatively telling the story first, and then I think about how it's going to affect all those other teams and how but it needs to come from the creative first. So I think in the same way as a songwriter would write from their truth, write their song, and then I kind of think like here's a checklist of things to think about that might, maybe a little edits or tweaks you can do at the end that might drastically like 10x the opportunities for it in a sync way. That's what I would think. Like, if your song's going to go in trailers or marketing, there's a certain, like they're rarely going to talk about negative things unless it's like a joke play or something, right? Like it's going to be positive because happy people buy things. And there's all those sort of like all these advertising ways that the music works. So that's what I would think about. Like, if you have a song, where's it going to go? Who's going to, like who would use it the best? Like, where have you heard songs like this before? And thinking of that's the way to kind of know where to go with it. I don't know if that was your question, but.
Yeah. I mean, it requires a certain type of versatility, that I feel like is very unique. I mean, would you say, seeing the world from both lenses, would you say that supervision is more of like a safer route than composition?
I think maybe a studio position might be a safer route. Like independent supervision is very up and down. It's very similar to composing because you're basically, it's kind of like an actor, right? Like you can't go make anything without getting hired to do something. So that's the harder part. Composition, like it's interesting because you can always go write something and sell yourself on that for that project and like go the extra mile and make something. So I always felt that I was a little bit out of control in what I can do because my credits have to speak for me and you don't really have any control over what your credits are. Obviously, you're going to do your best, and then if they're a success, you're a part of that. But it's a little bit out of your control. Composing, slightly more in your control because you're the one writing the music. But yeah, I mean, they're both very tough to get into. Also, like you said, you get typecast as like, okay, horror movies are easier to get into as a new composer. And then if you do too many, now you're just the horror person. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, that's the tough part in any part of Hollywood for any position. I think it happens with supervisors as well. I've been pretty lucky at having a pretty broad base of projects. But I'm sure that people think of me specifically for something as well. But I think that, so yeah, I mean, I think it's similar in that way. I guess ideally it's nice that the composer would make more money eventually than the supervisor. So you don't have to get as many projects maybe, but I don't know. I'm trying to think of ways to compare, but they're both, I would think the same in how tough they are, other than the fact that also, like, some projects don't have supervisors, a lot of them, and everything needs a composer. So yeah, there's pros and cons for sure.
Okay, I haven't thought of it like that actually before, which is it's interesting. Like, I guess before we get into the nitty gritty of what actually you do in, let's say, mm, the lower tier of of film production to something like Loki or a Guardians or something, Westworld or one of these bigger shows. Before that, I wanna get into meditation, and I saw like the books that you read. I have a bunch of them that are actually in your list. So, um, where in your life did you start getting into this kind of stuff, into meditation, into self help, so to speak, and into, yeah, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's all kind of connected for me. A lot of the journey of trying to create music, and I have a lot of fear around putting my creative work out there. So a lot of that was trying to even get to the point of where I could even create. It's much easier to kind of run away from you know being vulnerable and putting that out there, and even just I mean, not even just putting it out there, actually, I was completely stopped from even making anything. It's easy to go work on a project when you have to, like it's due. But when most of my writing and producing music in general has been just for me, other than a few movies I've done projects for, and my own music I've released and stuff. But in general, I mean, yeah, I had a label on some things, but it's not like they were expecting it. It's like a song was done before it went out. So it's been basically figuring out ways to kind of free up, like clear my mind enough to where I allow myself to do it. So I kind of went through a whole transformation over many years of trying to figure out ways to, access the creativity and allow myself to get over the fear and doing all those things. Which is so odd growing up as a performer and everything, but it was, never necessarily the direct path. So yeah, I got, a lot of different things into, but meditation was a huge part of figuring out just ways to kind of, I don't know, I guess, calm the nerves and get over the fear, and, kind of like take a step back, and also just using it to go even deeper with the creativity, and trying to figure out ways to, find those inner depths of what you're going to make.
Mm. Yeah, I had a guest that was calling it the moments in between.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you know. Do you know Jody Freeman?
Yeah. Yeah. Of
Yeah.
course.
So he was he
We
was
were just
he
on
was
a panel
on.
together. Actually, I was like, I don't know why I blanked for a second there, but yeah, totally.
Yeah.
We just did a panel at
Oh,
NAM
yeah, yeah, yeah,
recently.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so he was on the podcast, and I spoke to him also. I saw him on PMC, and yeah, and he spoke about these moments in between, which are basically where the biggest things happen, and most people just go by without listening to these, but these are the most important. And I feel like this is what meditation tunes you into. And I feel like I was, for the longest time, seeing meditation as just like sitting in as silence and with my eyes closed and saying kumbaya or something. But it's so, meditation is so broad, right? Like what kind of caught you? What these days is your thing with meditation? What's your relationship and how do you do it?
Yeah, I mean, a big part for me, I mean, I love what Jody said because it's I was having a hard time explaining that as well, but that's exactly what it is. Like everything's moving so fast, and it's a way to like slow down and actually notice. And the only way you can actually create is by, like, if you're sitting in a box forever, you can only create what the inspiration comes from everything around you. So uh you can, it's really hard to get inspired if you're just like flying through everything, you know what I mean, like zoning out or zoning into whatever you're doing. So I think that it's a great way to like slow down, because I'm always working on like 8,000 projects, and I have to like compartmentalize and work on like 6 different things throughout one day. So it's really easy to get lost in that, and I think that's a big part of it. So I've gone through different things. I do like, I use Calm for a long time. I do different, totally random ones on this. Oh my gosh, what is the app called?
Waking up?
No, it's another free one that you can subscribe to that just basically has a bunch of different people from all over the world that record it and put it on there. So I've gone through all kinds of different craziness, even like shamanistic things and different breathings, you know. And right now I'm getting deep into like let's just pull it up. Let's see what it is. Sorry.
Yeah. Pull it out. I want to link it.
What is it called? Oh yeah, Insight Timer.
Guys, you know that feeling when you're staring at your DAW and nothing's coming out? Or when you get a brief and just don't know how to approach it? Well, I've been there, and after more than 15 years of making music, I've hit more creative walls than I can count. And here's the kicker: being good at what you do is not always enough. Sometimes breakthroughs come from shifting your routine or trying a new framework. And sometimes it goes deeper: your relationships, the expectations you're carrying, the patterns that are holding you back. This can go real deep, but at times it's necessary to facilitate real growth. Because you're not just stuck on track, you're stuck in a way of thinking. I help creatives get more clarity and move towards the creative freedom they deserve. I'm currently offering a free discovery call for all my listeners. Visit roymatz.com/coaching to learn more about working with me one-on-one. roymatz.com/coaching.
Starts as a timer, but then there's a whole like global audience on there, which is pretty cool. But yeah, and then I've recently gotten into trying to do specific like breath work and different things. I was reading this book called Breath that's pretty amazing. So I've been trying to do different things in that realm. But yeah, I think it's just about, getting that, trying to actually like slow down and actually take in what what all the amazing things that are inspiring. And because it's easy to just fly past everything, like you go to work and then you eat and then you go watch TV and then there's no kind of like slowing down. And I think that's, taking that pause is huge. So I've do a lot of different ways, but I just try to get in something every day.
Yeah. I'm in a breathwork period because I don't I just find it very hard for me to sit down and without any intention. So I have this app that I use that is it's called Othership, and it's yeah there So yeah, so they're based out of Canada, I think, the guy, but they have a lot of stuff. They have ice bath meditations, but also like full journeys that I just lay on the floor. Usually, my dog joins me right in the kind of like in the pit of my arm here, and we and we just breathe like, and I just breathe with her, and sometimes I just like end up bawling and things like that. It's an emotional experience, but it's yeah, it's a way to get the brain out of whatever it's doing, because I don't know, in my own world I feel like as a composer I am, and as somebody who's trying to make this their full-time thing, it's just always I need to react to the landscape in a way. And I want to say, yeah, I'll say react because that's how I feel right now. Um, but in general, it's just like being able to move with the landscape.
Yeah,
So
no, that
yeah,
makes sense. I was going to say on beyond meditation, there's so many other things I had to go into to try to, kind of allow myself to do those things. And I like morning pages, which is why I made that app that I had for a while. Um, which is basically just writing down all your like doing a whole brain dump every morning and just getting things out. And that's another way to like clear out all those bouncing ideas that are going. I also do. I built a cold plunge myself in 2020. I do that pretty often, and all those things are trying to like kind of like set up your brain to be be ready to do the creative work. It's very different than busy work, being kind of accessing, like Rick Rubin would say, and being able to access that creativity. So I've done a lot of that work as well.
yeah. All also like the pre Super Bowl interview that Kendrick gave. All he was talking about is being present, basically. Like and yeah, I get these thoughts. Like I sometimes get sucked into these, I don't know, into these just routines or things or albums or things that sometimes I don't know what's the purpose of it. But then being present with it and actually enjoying it for what it is actually will bring me from the other side a better version of whatever I thought I was. So it's this funny thing I feel like where there has to be a presence cultivated in our life. And I dare to say ours because I think that it's with everyone. I find myself living through moments without actually living them these days, with all the technology and all the instant gratification and stuff like that. I'm curious to how you stay present, especially with two children and like a home to take care of, and bills, and you're in LA too. How does that work for you?
Yeah, I mean that was a big part of it too. Is how can you parent and be available as a husband, and then do all the work, and then I have all these other side projects I want to be doing on top of the supervision projects, and then being able to make space for anything um is definitely that's why I got into all that. I think exercise is a huge part. Right now I just started training for like a half marathon, just because it's long term. I hate running, but I'm trying to check it out, see what I can do. I think I don't really. It's funny because I feel like I am able to get a lot done and also, be available. But I think a big part of it is compartmentalizing the work from the family time and those things, and also doing the work yourself um, daily so that you're actually available. Because if I don't do any of those things, I kind of call it like my primer. If I don't do any of that stuff, then I'll do all the work. I'll go busy, busy, busy on the work. And then the whole rest of the evening, I'm still that work person. I haven't, I'm not like emotionally available. I'm not mentally available in any way. So that was another big part, as I was kind of going through all these personal, you know, emergencies through a few years, more than a few. So it was like finding all those different routines that I can do to like set myself up. And then I found that I'm, in so much better shape to be, available, but also setting those boundaries of time of this is when I'm working and this is when I'm not. Like all of us in the industry kind of work 24/7, but how can you kind of keep that, a damper on that so that you're not just, because I fall prey to this where I'm working, I'm like, oh, but I'm with you guys, right? And if you're on your phone, especially with kids, it's the worst, because if you're on your phone working on something, you're not really there. You might as well be. It's better actually if you're back in the office, or because I have a back office where I'm working from home most of the time, which makes it harder because then it's like, oh, I just walk in, I'm home now, but then you're still in work mode. So that's a constant struggle. But I find that I'm much better at it when I've gotten exercise in, I've gotten meditation in. I do like a red light while I'm doing the meditation. So I try to like stack my habits. And I put them all, I have this like mobility morning routine that I do right when I first wake up. So there's all these things that kind of, I just try to stack them in so I could save time in that way. And then I'm just a much better person the rest of the day. And by the night, I'm not just like dead or, eating 6 bowls of cereal at night, whatever it is, because I'm trying to like de-stress, so it's more of that priming that helps for me.
I love that. Yeah, you're basically setting yourself up. You're starting the engine for the day, and you have to do it by some solitude. And I imagine that a supportive partner is a part of it, and like just this. It's it's easy to say somebody's gotten lucky, but then when you get into the routines, you figure out that it's way more. And yeah, that's something that I feel like is very bastardized these days, because people come across as these action figures or whatever. Like they bring in, like, tell you to wake up at 5 and do all these things, where I mean, sometimes all it takes is just 5 push-ups and a minute under red light. It doesn't have to be like 2 hours of meditation and like these I don't know, like I feel like mostly the thing is I'm meeting you where you are today. I'm not meeting the Trygge that was 20 years old, maybe crashing in a dorm room and drinking themselves to sleep. Like I don't know, like I don't know what your situation was, right? But I mean, I don't know that version of you, and that's the reason that I'm kind of doing this podcast, is to be able to more than understand what projects you're working on and all that stuff. I feel like it exists out there, but the most important thing is to actually understand what made you you. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't think the projects can speak to that, right? It's like you learn something through finishing every project, but also being available for that's the same as the opportunity question earlier is like, how do you set yourself up so that you're fully available for that opportunity? And then you're going to like succeed and take it to the next level. Because obviously it's hard to do these projects. It's not like, and it's hard to get them, and then it's hard to keep them. And then having somebody call you again, like it's tough. Especially as like a composer as well, where you're good for it's so hard to get that one relationship, and then the next project, they're going to try somebody else. Like it's very tough to try to mold that and keep that. But yeah, I think it's crazy. I mean, it felt like it was exponential. I mean, going back to the mentorship thing, I didn't mention that I obviously eventually ended up at Format, working under Dave Jordan and Jojo Villanueva at the time, before he went to Sony. And that's who hired me. So I was working, and I was also working under Julianne. So it's like when I came in, I was like, I had already been supervising for like 4 years. Well, independently after the trailer company. So doing trailers, did some movies on the side while I was doing the trailers still. Had like a Fox Sports, I was doing like a side client with them, like, all these, whatever I could do to like make stuff happen. But then I was doing a bunch of like cable shows and indie movies and stuff, just barely scraping by. And then I went to format, and that was the first time. That's why I always tell everyone else, don't do what I did. Like, don't hustle meetings to get your mentorship. Like, go actually get go work under somebody. If you don't like what they're doing, or if you don't like their job, now that you're seeing it firsthand, go get another, like hop around, move. I was at a lot of places for a long time. So, but that was where the real mentorship happened. I came in there as a supervisor already, but I came in as a senior coordinator because I went from like smaller projects to, I walked in and I was working on like 4 Marvel movies, Trolls, Sing, Straight Outta Compton, like in day one, like all those projects. And I was on everything in the whole building. So it was a really good boot camp on like studio level projects. And I learned so much from that team. So I think we're talking today because I was there. Like, if I hadn't gone there, and for a long time I was like, well, I already know everything, I'm going to do it myself. I know I can hustle things. And I'm not saying that I didn't come in there with a lot of skills, but it's a big part of it is working under them and being able to, the people can take the risk on you, because the same as on a composer. I say the same thing to all the upcoming composers I talk to. Like, everybody wants to just do their own thing and get hired for their own music. But the way it works at the studios and everywhere that is looking, producers, anybody that's looking for composers, is they're trying to take the least risk possible in every hire, in every department. So that person worked under Chris Beck. Okay, well, they probably somewhat know what they're doing. You know what I mean? And we can't afford Chris Beck. So, it's just like those sort of, it's just going to get your foot in the door so much faster if you go work under somebody that's building and is known in the industry already. It's just going to, so I did a lot of work for a lot of time on my own. And I went in with a good knowledge, like a good knowledge set of what I was doing. But the real rocket took off when I went to format, because then I could, then I like had the proof that I was working on stuff people actually heard of. You know what I mean? Like, that's the problem, because I had 14 movie credits or something before I went to format, and no one has ever talked to me about those ever since. Like, so.
Yeah, and I feel like there is a similarity with composition and music and music. Once I started releasing stuff with Universal and BMG, people started approaching me completely differently. Like, it's just what it is. It's just, I feel like it's a status. And you know what? Like, last year, one of the guys that I've created an amazing relationship with actually was like, man, I heard all your sync stuff, but give me your stuff. And I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, I didn't see it coming full circle like that. And just yet, like yesterday, the album was released with BMG, and and to what you were saying, like, I don't even have time to kind of say, oh my God, that's a huge milestone, because I'm already doing the thing, if that makes sense. Like, I'm presently working on the next thing. I'm now having Trygge on my podcast. I have these, like, episode 100, you're episode 100, you're going to be episode 106. I'm like, whoa. So it's just
Congrats,
like,
man. It's
this
crazy.
train is going. And, like, all these things are happening. And I'm sure that it also is a parallel to you. Like, you weren't like, oh my God, I made it, I'm in format. You just, like, you went on because you still have something to prove. You still love what you're doing in a way, that you want to excel. You keep wanting to excel. So you're like, yeah, I'm not dead. I'm not done yet. I can't talk about it as if it's my legacy, because it's not, because I'm still writing the
The
script.
next stepping stone. Yeah.
And yeah, so I see so many parallels actually between the worlds in a way. And yeah, really makes me, your journey really makes me think of like hustle versus, like, do versus be, if that makes sense. So like there is a time when you are on a project, when you're working with a format, when you're doing all these things, you are doing. But then if you don't let yourself be in that, and that comes back to meditation, that comes back to taking a freaking break in the middle of the day and stuff like that, which I sometimes I sin in not doing.
I used to do walking meditations and all those things as well.
Yeah.
It like set throughout the day when you're really, really going. Yeah.
100%. And the best music ideas came to me in either in the shower, on my scooter, or in a walk. Like I kid you not. These are the three places where the best ideas of tracks came up to me. So I'm like, why can I not learn from that and do it more? Like there's something in me that's like, no, but now you have you had the idea. Now you got to work. But that's how I got the idea. So repeat that shit.
Yeah, letting go and amazing things will come for sure. It's hard because part of you thinks the hustle. I mean, I feel like if you don't do any hustle, then it might just sit there on a hard drive as well. So it's hard to balance it, but it's definitely, to get the better creative work, you have to let go for sure.
Yeah. Man, I just wanna ask a little bit, like a tiny bit. So a project like, let's take Loki because it's a pretty recent one. Um, what does that look like for you, working with a composer versus getting songs in? And plus, you said that you meet the cast sometimes. You meet like you go in. I don't know, what does it look like for you in an A-list movie like that, series like that?
Yeah. So, I only did season 2 of Loki. So I got to give shout out to Shannon Murphy, who also did season 1 with Dave. So all the Marvel stuff, you're doing it with Dave. So we co-supervised that the second season, and yeah, I mean, Natalie, we were coming off of Natalie Holt, you know, uh, and getting the Emmy. Did she? Now I'm blanking on whether she won or not. I'm totally. I know she got nominated, but I'm just totally blanking. But yeah, like this incredible score. So like, how can you keep that and like take it further? But yeah, I mean, typically I came on season 2, so a little bit different, but typically a big part of it is finding the right composer and working with the filmmakers to help them with that decision. And also, at Format, we were basically the Marvel music department as well. So it's a different role than just being the supervisor. So you're much more involved in the score. I mean, I am on films as well, even when I'm not in the studio, but in TV even more so. It's more disconnected. But on the Marvel thing, it's almost like making a 4-hour film or a 6-hour film. So it's very, it's more of an intense process. But yeah, I mean, I didn't go to set for that project because there was no we did have an on camera actually, but where Natalie actually sat in and played with the band, which was pretty fun. But typically I'm there for that sort of thing, but we didn't get to fly. I think it might have been COVID times and, like different, a little bit harder to be there for that. But yeah, I mean, it can run the gamut from just sending songs in post to being involved in the very beginning, hiring songwriters, like being in the process of writing the songs, not necessarily writing them, but some projects for me, I'm actually producing the songs that go into the project for the on cameras and things. So it really depends. But it, it reaches the whole gamut. Well, that's why it's fun, because one project I'm on for the whole thing, we're putting a whole soundtrack together with a bunch of big big artists making original music and all that stuff, to the project where it's just licensed songs in post and that's all you're doing, so it's it kind of runs the gamut. But on Loki, that was a pretty score heavy project, but the songs had a really key moments, and I think they stuck out in a fun way. So what's fun about Loki was like a lot of times projects have a very, you just kind of find a sound and it's like it's stuck in that. So like something like Fallout, is kind of defined by the video games and like this era is the music. Whereas Loki, there was no real definition. So any spot kind of could have been anything. And it just had to have that kind of like, I don't know, it just felt like Loki. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to explain. Um, it's almost like the Drive soundtrack. Do you remember that movie? It was like this new wave music of like 2010, 2007, or like around that era. And it was a really cool curated soundtrack all the way through in all one style. But something like Loki is really fun where you can kind of, it's all about the going deep diving and telling the story through the songs. But it could be, the artist can be from any era, from any sound, and it's really, really fun. And then we had this really cool record store scene. I don't know if you remember where, the whole thing gets like sucked into the I totally forget what that thing was called. But it's just this amazing opportunity to kind of like soundtrack of such a crazy scene. So yeah, I mean, it was one of the best and it was amazing storytelling. So a lot of fun.
Do you sit down with the composers? Like, what do you like? How does that work? Do you time things? Do you sit in spotting as they're doing it? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so we'll usually there's the kind of initial demo process where you're trying to find the idea of what the sound is, the score, and how you can go through those different things. So you're kind of the liaison. They're working directly with the showrunner or the director, depending on the type of project, and then they're coming up with themes and ideas, and everybody's kind of weighing in. And then that's kind of a cool thing that Marvel would do. They would have the composers, especially on the movies, would have composers do a suite of themes. So literally right at the beginning, before literally while they're shooting, sometimes they'd make like an 8-minute suite of themes. So like you go through the hero theme, and now here's the love theme, and like it's a full-on 8-minute piece, just purely from the composer based on the script and the story before they even had footage sometimes, which is so cool. Because I think a lot of times they're just coming into doing it to picture, and then you're kind of stuck in whatever the temp score was and a lot of those things. So I loved the idea of having this suite created early on, and then the editors can edit in parts of that suite as the temp a lot of times, which was really fun. But yeah, so that process would be pretty amazing, working out the temp score. And then there's, like you said, the sitting down and spotting each episode. Should we have a song here? Maybe that needs to be silent. That's overscored. There's too much score there, or I think it needs to come in on this beat because it's not, we need to let the audience kind of hang on that moment that the actor said and then kind of come in. And just those conversations of like, are we leading the audience here? Is, you don't want to make them feel something. So you want to time it just right with the score. And that's coming from the composer, coming from the director, the editors, the music editor, the supervisor. We're all together kind of figuring out what that looks like. You'll have a showrunner that's super specific about music, and then they're kind of running that, and I'm just chiming in. But a lot of times, and some composers speak story and some don't. Some of them are thinking really in music and just in like notes and scales, and some of them are thinking about what emotion it's doing. And that's kind of what I say, speaking story, is like, how is that going to tell the story through the music, So that's the process. And then eventually they're scoring, and we're trying to, taking those kind of demos, the MIDI demos and everything, and actually doing the full scoring session. So we would oversee those as well. But
yeah,
big process.
It feels like what you're doing is kind of like you're kind of being a songwriter in the room in a way, like in a room with like a lot of insane
Right, it's very
songwriters.
collaborative.
Yeah, it's just wow. That sounds insane to
That's
me.
right. It's
That
like the
actually,
composer is Max Martin, and then the other people are the other, the other writers in the room for sure.
yeah, yeah. But it's just like there's something about it that is. I mean, sometimes being that person who says that one word that makes the scene or something look different, it's what makes the scene, right? Like there's things, and there's just like interactions with supervisors and editors that sometimes, like, I feel like there's magic, there can be magic there too when you understand the crew around you and you work with like a format and you're not just a cog in the wheel in a way.
Yeah.
It feels right. That's why maybe like your gig is maybe like a bit of a dream gig for people who are starting up as supervisors, right?
I mean, yeah, I think so. I I think, but then that's what's weird about supervision is that some people are like music just super nerd fans where they, they can list exactly who played bass on all those, like all that level of like fandom about stuff. And maybe they just like to make playlists and get deep. Some people don't even like getting in the score. They don't really know about it. So there's all those different versions, but I mean, I think it's the dream version for sure to be like all the way involved. But I come from more of a songwriting musician background as well. So I think there's all those different versions of it, which is kind of hard because that's why for many years it's like, oh, well, this supervisor, oh, I'm just going to call my cousin that's really, that loves music. Or it's like a producer's, nephew or something. So it's, you're kind of competing with that aspect of what people expect of the job. And then, of course, there's the composers that don't necessarily want your opinion either. You know what I mean? Like, it all depends on the project. So, and the who trusts who for their musical taste. Like, if the showrunner, if it's a director that you've worked with a ton, and they look to you for your musical taste and to walk them through and help them with that part, then you're kind of directing the music in that way. And sometimes they're super musical. They see you as the song expert. We're going to talk about this, and then I'm going to go talk to the composer, and they just go real one-on-one with it. So, you can't really be mad about either one. It's just however it lands. But that's why it's cool to have a lot of different projects because everyone's different. So
You gotta be dynamic to be a music supervisor. That's what I feel like the key is here. You gotta be super dynamic, and you cannot have a lot of ego because sometimes you are just that guy to give that one word or give that one playlist or just give a little sprinkle. But sometimes you'll just do the whole thing because you have some relationship with somebody that is just like that. And I feel like it's the same. That's why there are so many parallels to what something like what I do and what you do, and that's why it fascinates me to see like where these things intersect, like where you feel like you intersect with a musician, and that's the thing. Like supervisors are music fans in different levels, and they have different interests, and that's why it's really important to understand it for composers before they cold email or they do that kind of stuff. What do you feel like you'd like to see more composers do? Because I mean, your LinkedIn is full of gems like that, but what is something that you would like to see composers doing more, and how do you think they would be able to make a living better in the sync space?
are we talking about like people that want to score films? Or are we talking about composers in the traditional sense, or just like songwriters and producers and, people that make music?
I feel like if we yeah, if we can start with the people who are making music.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's exactly right. That's what the reason I made the course and the reason I started doing the LinkedIn stuff was because I did a bunch of panels where you get asked the same question and I just have the same, like, so I'm like, okay, let's put this out in the world so people can find that information. But I think for me, a big part of it, I was just telling somebody this at NAM, was that is exactly like you're saying. knowing that there's different levels, there's different like target, like what they're working on, all these different things are different. So I think the thing that always happened when I was at Format was like, oh, dude, I love Marvel movies. I'm going to put my song in a Marvel movie, and you're like, but you've seen Marvel movies. Nothing that you work on has ever been in a Marvel, it's kind of like this. So it's like knowing I mean, of course, if it happens randomly, that'd be amazing. But I think it's like you're going to get burned out if that's what you're going after. Right. But if you say, my music sounds like this, I've heard my music on these type of commercials or these TV shows. And then you're like, oh, wow, that same supervisor did 3 of those TV shows. Oh, maybe that's the person I should reach out to. And I just think like it won't feel like you're just beating your head against the wall if you do a little bit of thought about where your music would fit. And also with me, I needed tons of new bands way more when I was doing promos because we would be churning out all these spots. And, they usually get like 1 to 4 weeks on these promos that air all day long. It's a little different now, I'm sure, with streaming and everything, not as many commercials. But like at the time, it's just all these cool new bands. They need to have a certain energy and there's a certain thing that work in promos or trailers. But so you need to know that your music feels like that, right? So then to go after it. But I just mean the opportunities, there's so many more opportunities with that type of supervisor than say me who works on a movie for a year that has 10 spots in it, maybe 15, so I maybe have like 50 spots a year now or something, whereas I had like 500 back then, you know what I mean? Like, so it's just thinking of that. And also like, if you're like an indie band or something, like an up and coming artist or somebody that's doing this in this certain area, TV is always going to be a better place because they're using that music a lot more and they have a lot more opportunities than going after just like studio films or something. So I just always think about, knowing every studio department that make all the big films, sounds great, but they're probably not going to have as many opportunities for you as say the person that has 10 TV shows running right now. So I just think about like the right place to, place your hustle. But also the main thing I always say is like, going directly is not as it's good, but I wouldn't start there. I always start with having someone like you're saying, what you were going to BMG or whatever. These people are kind of vetted sources for supervisors, and also doesn't have to be a major. It can just be like a sync company or anybody. Their whole job, they have somebody that's paid full time to go meet us, and then I'm not going to reach out to 1,000 composers that I've met over the years. I'm going to reach out to the 100 companies that I work with daily, and they're going to know there are thousands of people and know what to send me. So it's just a better, you know what I mean? Like it's just way better odds of working with somebody. Like I know you give up a percentage of the money, but you're going to get 10 opportunities instead of 1. So I just think that's where I always say to start.
Yeah, there are people with the skill sets that you don't have that are doing this only that. So that's what you're competing with
Right.
as a composer who's like looking for these things. So
and you've only got your music. They have like 50 artists, right? Yeah.
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 50 artists at least.
Hundreds. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's just what it is. I feel like that's it's an approach. And again, like some people, I have some really, really successful composer friends who are just killing it and have that relationship with bigger companies. That being said, that is a large chunk of their job is to be and maintain in these relationships.
Yeah, they're not easy to get. And then once you have it, you need to service. Yeah, you're like making albums for them and different. Yeah.
And do you want to do that kind of stuff? That's the question. I feel like that's the biggest question. Do you want to do it? Is this an opportunity that you see yourself a part of, or are you only being greedy here? And I can say for myself, a lot of the times I'm being greedy. When I see these things, when I see my homies really succeeding, there's something greedy in me that goes like, oh my God, that's amazing for them. and I need to step it up.
I need some of that. Yeah.
Whatever the fuck that means. But you know, like that's the thing. It's just the biggest takeaway here is if you want to do that, then you'll probably you are competing with some really high level people who do it only. So just remind yourself that when you're having your next writer's block or whatever.
Right, but also like if your goal is just to like build a huge audience and just do your thing, like, you know, on a pop level or any sort of, you know, I'm just releasing music level, then it doesn't hurt to have somebody repping you for sync because they could always help you build the audience. You never know what happens. And also like, yeah, it's the avenue to build an audience is not through supervisors. Like, of course, yes, if you land like a good TV, like, you know, if you're on Euphoria or something, you're gonna get a bunch of new audience, which is amazing. But the music that's on Euphoria is not necessarily like, you know, Jen's not out there. I'm not going to speak for her, but she's not out there like, you know what I mean? She's out there looking for really cool stuff that's already building its own audience. So I was going to say like the majority of those, if you're just doing your thing, we're going to find you the same way as a fan does. Yeah. Right. So people are always like, how do I find supervisors? It's like, just focus on you building your audience. And we're music nerds that are in the audience and in the crowd finding the same way. We just have a little more outlet than the normal audience. So, you know.
Yeah, there are people again like your job is to be a geek, not to be pushed on a bunch of music from random composers who you've never met, and that's the
right.
That's the biggest
Find
thing.
It and love it. Yeah,
that's where the biggest thing is. Like the biggest thing I feel like is that composers don't understand that they just want in. And again, I'm talking about somebody who's made all these mistakes multiple times, and actually one of that's how my sync journey started. Where wow, I forgot this dude's name. He actually did stuff for Marvel, but he guided me. He told me, "Hey, man, listen, like I take stuff from APM, go put your stuff there," and that's how my sync journey started. Literally, I don't remember. He's a pretty big guy. It was amazing from him to answer me, but he did. And
well, I mean, but it's not easy to go get an APM, obviously. But you know, if you could do it if you got good enough music and you make that a goal. But yeah, I mean, a company like that has a deal everywhere, right? So like, it's easy to use APM on any project because they've done the legwork, and we also know 100% that it's like, we're not going to get sued. There's no problem. You know what I mean? Like they're on top of it. So yeah,
exactly. And with the rhythm that everything is made today, I feel like it is more than ever necessary to have your stuff in the right place, because if your stuff is not in the right place, they're just moving on to the next one. There is definitely a music market is not undersaturated. So I mean,
unfortunately,
I feel like if you get the opportunity, you better have you better have that leverage of at least having the rights and everything in there. And a company like APM, they have it. You're signing it to them, and it goes forward. Like it's crazy. I mean, like to me, a lot of the people, me too, are focused on these sync fees and stuff like that. But then the way royalties work is just so much more sustainable, in my opinion. With these with these bigger companies too, it's just it makes more sense in a way. It's like I'll meet you at the top kind of thing. And that's why I feel like with supervisors, it's like yeah, I'll meet you at the top. Like either you find my music somewhere, or you find you'll APM will pitch it to you. Don't worry about it. We'll meet at the top. That's I feel like the approach that somebody like me needs to have.
Yeah. No, totally. I think that makes a lot of sense, man, for sure.
Man, thank you so much for coming on. I'm so grateful for you. Is there anything maybe we forgot that you would like to kind of answer to the people?
No, no, I don't think so, man. It was thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I will plug my course if there's any, musicians out there that are interested in, you know, getting the direct detail of my experience in finding music, and also as a producer and writer, I put together a course. So definitely go check that out. It's at course.vidson.com. But yeah, I mean, other than that, man, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. This it's funny. I haven't done a podcast this late in the day after a crazy day, so I'm sorry if I'm rambling, but it was a pleasure for sure.
Hell yeah, it was more than a pleasure for me to finally meet you. I'm super grateful for you. I'm super grateful for getting to finally sit in the same virtual room. Perhaps next year or this year we'll get to sit in the same room together when I come to LA. And that's all, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.